till now. So first and foremost, I would like to welcome and thank all of you for joining in today. Today I have a very interesting and a good news to share with all of you. Today is the day that actually Digital Vidya has turned 5. We started our journey 5 years back on 28th of November in 2010, and really want to thank all of you for being part of our community and supporting us in different ways. And like today's session is also very special. The topic of today's session is building an online community, the story of the Robinhoods.com. To lead this session, we have with us Alok Kejriwal, who is a CEO and co-founder of Games to Win. I'm sure most of you already know who Alok is. Those of you who don't know, he's a guy behind all the to-win range of organizations, including Contest to Win, Mobile to Win, Games to Win, and Media to Win. And just to give you how it's related to today's session is about the community, the Robinhood. And there are two reasons.
It's the Rodinhood, sorry to interrupt you.
Sorry.
It's not B, it's D, it's Rodinhoods, yeah.
Okay. It's Rodinhood, sorry. There are two reasons why it's actually very important and relevant for us. One, this is a community of entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs is a significant percentage of our community. And secondly, it's all about community building. And I'm sure a lot of you are all interested in how to really build a successful online community. Just to give you a brief background, Rodinhoods is already a vibrant community of 8,500 plus seasonal entrepreneurs. And I've also joined in actually today itself and found it very interesting. Read a lot of blog posts and discussions. So I'm sure I'm going to be part of it for a long time. Without taking any further time now, I'd like to hand over the session to Alok. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, just set the logistics. By default, all of you are muted. So during the session, if you have any question, you can just type it down in the question panel. We'll have the session for about 35-40 minutes, and then we will have an open Q&A. But I would request all of you to keep typing down your questions, since we'll be taking up all the questions in chronological order in the Q&A part. That's it from my side. Over to you, Alok. You can start the session now.
Awesome. So thank you guys, and thank you for the invite. Sorry if I had to interrupt you in the middle, but it's a clarification before anything else. It's it's a D for Rode, not B for Robin. So I just thought I'll bring that into perspective. It was quite interesting to be asked to present on building an online community and what's happened and how the success, small success that we've had. We never intended it to be so, but I think that's the beauty of all startup stories, right? You start something and something else happens. So I'm just going to walk you guys through a simple PPT that I put together, just to kind of talk about stuff that you may already know, you may have obviously assumed you are doing, you will do, but sometimes sessions like these just help to bring a perspective and they just scan everything together. So here goes. So I've termed the PPT lessons, and lessons is just learnings, if you may use. So lessons is shorter format for learnings. Lesson one that I really feel is very important for anything we do, irrespective of whether it's a online community, if it's a business, if it's cooking. I'm obsessed by the question why, and unless you have a real clear why, a lot of things that we start to do don't land up going anywhere, because the intent of doing that activity may not be that purposeful. So I would really urge you, whoever's involved in online community, in doing anything, it doesn't really matter what you do, constantly ask yourself, why are you doing what you're doing, or why do you want to do something? Because that really brings a lot of clarity to your thought process. So so even for building online communities, right, why? And to answer that, now I was inspired to share my real motivation after many years of working. I started working when I was 16. I'm 46 now, so I've been working for 30 years. And about 6, 7 years ago, when I wasn't burnt out. I was just completely, bottled up, and I couldn't understand how to release some of the, energy that I had. And it was my spiritual teacher who actually said that, your cup is full, empty the cup. And her point to me was, if you don't share, you will not be able to grow further. And when I began to think of how to share, what really struck me was that the best thing I could share was the knowledge, the travels of my entrepreneur journey. So I decided to share my pains, my gains, my, everything. And the approach I think I took at that time was very unorthodox. It was not putting vanilla ice cream on the pain or making people feel nice about things that they're supposed to feel nice about. It was pure naked truth. There was a very nice session we did sometime back in Delhi at a big, I think at TiCon, and someone was saying, how did you do it? And I said, you have to just become naked in a room full of suits, and that was like funny. So this is what the idea was: share everything that you have so that people may find it meaningful. The second lesson I've learned is meaning, and what is it that you are trying to express? I'll be honest, there have been a lot of blogs, a lot of communities, a lot of forums that I come across, and while I'm not that obsessed about name per se, I think the meaning is more important. And it started off this session, right? I mean, Robin Hoods and Rodin Hoods was already being confused. And if I say Robin Hoods, you will understand something. But when I explain to you what Rodin Hood means, you will understand something else. So if you have a purpose and then you have a meaning, I think there's a lot of very strong foundation or formation of what you're really going to be doing. So, what does this mean? What does Rodin Hood really mean? It's a strange name. Very few people have heard it. In fact, even we're all pronouncing it's Rodin, the sculpture. And if you see the logo, that's the way the logo is. And if you still haven't figured out what this really means, this is essentially really the meaning of the brand or the name. So Rodin the thinker, I think you may or may not have seen yourself, but you've probably seen a picture. He's a guy who's sitting like that. Robin Hood is popular, and this happened to me one night when I was thinking in terms of, what is it that defines what I like to do and what I would inspire people to do. And I said, can we inspire them to think and to do, because Robin Hood did, and that's why it became thinking and doing. So Robin Hood simply means think and do, or thinking and doing, and that is the meaning of the concept of the Robin Hoods. This is a very important lesson, to start small. I know in the age where people are raising $150 million in Series A, and everybody is $1 billion company. It's quite retrograde and probably old-fashioned to have some guy sitting in front of you saying start small. But trust me, everything starts small. I share this with a lot of people who know me personally, that the best advice my father gave me when I told him that I'm quitting a very nice foundation business and doing something quite silly called Contest to Win. He didn't know what it was, but all he said was, whatever you do, start slowly, start small. So this has really helped in all my companies for sure, and it may not work for some people, and I respect that. But when you start small, you have the opportunity to really get a lot of good things or basics out of the way, and then you can scale on it. So the Rodin Hoods actually began as rodinhood.com. That's the sample screenshot of the WordPress blog that you see. And when I was inspired to share, and I said, let's think and do, I never thought of a community. I never thought that, there'll be people like this on a call today. I never thought that, we will be anybody. I just said, look, I'm a guy who's done a couple of businesses. Can I write some blogs and share them with people? So the foundation was very simple. It was very, very, clear in my mind. It was all about sharing, and that's how it started. Which is also what I believe is a great way to start something. If you're not too sure, if it sounds too complicated, even when you're thinking of something, don't do it. Do it in a way that you think. Whenever it becomes simple for you to understand, I think that's when you should say, this is what I should start at. So one of the best ways to understand what is small is equal to what is simple for you to understand. Needless to say, I mean, I don't think this is a lesson that needs to be learned, but nevertheless, it's you have to keep reiterating the fact that, staying committed is so important. It's, relentless, committed, you can call it, mad, whatever term you use. But the fact is that whatever you start, and, we're talking about online community here, if you're not 100 and, let me say, 1,000 on 100, not even 101 on 100, you're not going to get anywhere. And, just to kind of explain what I mean by this, since the Rodinhoods is about sharing experiences and sharing content and sharing ideas, I've written over 500 articles over the period of 4 years in terms of what I've done. So, if you think about it, 52 into 4 is 200 weeks, and I've written, 500 articles, and that's a lot of content. It's like really pumping it out. If all of us have studied in various kinds of degrees, and we all know that essay writing and writing things is painful, right? I mean, it's nice to write a tweet, but if you say 300, 400, 500 words, it's not going to be easy. So that relentless commitment to keep doing it, I chose to write a blog about my experiences, but then I had to deliver on my promise. So the 500 pieces of content that I wrote over the period of the last 3, 4, 5 years is really what has become the mainstay of the site. Very often when, to be very honest, nowadays I feel I don't have anything else to share. I'm completely empty, and that's a very nice feeling to have. So, whatever you do, maybe big or small, please do it very, very consistently. That is critical. I can't let me say enforce this enough. And honestly, I feel this is a culture that is a little alien in India. This be the brand. People are they are someone in their real life. They are someone else in their work life. They are someone else in their personal life, and it's all mixed up. To be very honest, I don't believe that works. So for me, I am Rodinhood wherever, everywhere, anywhere I go. If you see me on Facebook, if you see me on LinkedIn, if you see me on Twitter, if you see me on Quora, if you see me wherever, I am Rodinhood. And it's not easy. If you have investors who say, look, Mr. Kejriwal, what are you? Are you games to win? Are you Rodinhood? I mean, you have to take a call and take a stance. If you ever drive with me, you'll see my car has Rodinhood on it. And it's embarrassing. My girls, I have 2 daughters, and my girls don't like that. They say, Dad, can you just take that number plate off? It's so embarrassing. It's not vanity. It's just the commitment to the brand. You have to be so committed to what you do. You have to live the brand. You have to be the brand. And only when you become what you think you want to create does that creation ever happen. So, you have to be completely obsessed by expressing your intention. And to me, since it's a name and since it's a character and since it's a kind of formula, I try and live it as much as I can. I try to behave like that as much as I can. So be the brand is the real lesson here. The other really, I would say, interesting angle is to participate outside of the community. If you're building a community, be outside of the community. It's a contrarian thought. A lot of times you can just spend enough time in your community and do what you want. But the point I have is, if you are going to be trying to build something inside, you have to look outside. And when you start floating outside, when you start keeping a lot of, your eyes and ears open, you get to learn a lot. For me, for example, one of the simple case studies I keep telling people, and I urge people to, figure out how effective are they on Quora. I spend not, there's a Quora question on how do I get so much time to spend, but that's not the point. By the arrow you see there, I've answered about 95 questions on Quora, which is not too much. But having said that, these are meaningful questions. These are questions that have a high SEO kind of click-through rate. These are generic questions about entrepreneurs and brands. They're about equity splits, about how do you do stuff with VCs, about how do you get along with your co-founder. This is very close to my heart. And while I could have written and have written about this on the Rodinhoods, I also choose to share this on Quora. And that's the point I'm making, that nothing today is a closed vessel. It is, it's very it's like it flows. I mean, it has to be completely amorphous. It has to move from here to there. So if you're building something inside, be ready to share it outside. And that's the point of my saying, kind of be everywhere as far as you can, because with all that effort, you'll be able to build something of your own. The other very important aspect is to create traction on media. Now, India media is not something that is easy. Well, it's not easy anywhere in the world. It takes a long time to cultivate media. It takes a long time to understand how people are heard and seen and kind of represented on media. But having said that, I have, by the way, I'm not pitching here, but on the Rodinhoods, there is a very nice PPT I've written called PR for Startups. If you look that up, there's a lot of tips on how to get media attention. But I think that if you're building an online community, you need to be on external media. So for example, I write, my passion is to write. So thankfully, I chose to do something that I'm really passionate about. But I also write for a lot of newspapers, I write for a lot of magazines. For example, this is something for the Business Standard. I'm a very, I'm a big regular on the Economic Times, especially on the Sunday page. So probably I've written almost 35-40 pieces on the Sunday ET, and and other digital media. The takeaway from this is that as you get outside and heard, and you get expressive, and different media trains you to be a little bit more purposeful. So for example, the ET has its own standard expectation. I've written once or twice for the Economist blog, and they're very exacting in what you should be expressing. External media trains you very well to be effective, and you can use all those skills for your own community. So when you mingle with other communities, which is, newspaper is nothing but a community of people reading it, then you begin to get better and better at your own community. So don't be a introvert, be a media extrovert. Go out there and spread yourself, and do as much as you can, because in the end it's all going to come back, and it's going to make you really feel glad that you made all that effort. This is an iteration of reiteration, of something I spoke earlier, but this is more on the physical manifestation side. Again, it's an India issue. I see this much more abroad. Look, if you're building something, you're either proud of it or you're not. If you are trying to say, I stand for something, then you are that position. And therefore, you should walk, talk, and as I said earlier, be the brand. So, thankfully, we got this really nice logo designed and this t-shirt design, and that's not the point. The point is to be confident, to be happy, to be very, very cool about saying that I am Rodinhood, that's the way I dress. And trust me, as you start manifesting yourself in the virtual world, very often you get disconnected in the real world, and these are great touch points to come back and show people that you really mean a brand and a community in both the worlds. So by wearing your brand, literally in this case, by being the brand, Richard Branson, I mean, who needs a bigger and better example than Richard Branson? He wears air hostesses clothes, he dances, he stands on, does all these funny shoots, and that's exactly the point I'm making. You have to be 100% immersed in what you do, and it's not easy. If you're doing something that you're kind of a little shady about, or you're not too happy that your parents or your peer group may find weird or not that exciting, then I don't think you'll be successful. You have to be able to kind of completely be that brand or that community or that persona, and that's exactly what I mean here. I hope and I assume that if you guys are really serious about building something, you already have a partner or a co-founder or a whatever. A lot of people have their husbands and wives as partners in businesses like online community. But if you don't have one, then get a co-founder. It is very important. It's also important. It's like a yin and yang, if you know what I mean. It's more to say, like, if I have a view, someone else has another view. In the business of online communities, this is Asha, my co-founder. Thankfully, she's on the call also. And I think, as I was saying, in the business of online communities, you need a counterweight. You need someone to kind of not contradict you, but to kind of be the balance. And when I started writing, and I purposely showed one of the media screens of AFAQs, which is Agency FAQs, a pretty old and well-known portal for advertising and media news. And when I began to write for that portal without having the Rodinhoods, Asha read a few of my articles there, and this is what she commented in a private mail to me. She kind of was quite strong, saying that my spellings and my grammar were like pathetic, which they still are. My spellings aren't pathetic, but my grammar is. I don't care about the I's and the T's. And what I took out of that was like hey, she's a person who's really going to be a great contributor to what I do. She can be someone who can, take my raw energy and, kind of exploit it in much better and much more finished, in a much more finished way. So lesson is, get out there. You might not, finding a co-founder. I've written another blog on that saying it's like almost marrying someone. It's not that easy. But having said that, I'm sure you can find like-minded people who can help you achieve your objective. So, just get a partner, man. That's the message over here. Again, it's a silly thing to say as a lesson, but I've noticed a lot of forums, a lot of places where people start something and they don't pursue it. They just kind of fade away, or they give it up, or they hope that someone else will take care of it. I am also lazy. I also sometimes, because of my day-to-day work, don't go up to the Rodinhoods as often as I can. And I get a nice message from Asha saying, dude, where are you? The community misses you, which is a great way to get people back. But as the owner, as part of the person who's founded it, you have to be heavily involved in the community. And, to illustrate my point, if you see the arrow pointing down, while I've started 500 plus discussions, I've replied to 1460 discussions. Now that's a lot of posts, right? So to go through a post, to then read what the person is saying. This is not a joke site or some frivolous site. This is an entrepreneur's blog. It's a community. And it's something that people are very intentful about. They write serious stuff. And then when you read serious stuff and then you have a view, it's a measured view. So it takes a lot of my time. I can share it takes all my Sunday afternoon and evening. And that's time I could have spent just loitering around or just sleeping or just lying on the couch. But that commitment is because I think I have to give the online community my own share of time. So it's, let me kind of capture it by one line saying it's never enough. If you're going to attempt to do an online community, then it's never going to be enough to say, okay, I've built it up, I've got some traction going, and the community will take care of itself. Well, it might, but I haven't experienced that as yet. So be really involved and be as day to day as you can, because that's what an online community thrives with. It goes back to purpose, right? Your community could be anything. It could be, a motorbike site. It could be entrepreneur social network. It could be a site that teaches you how to make clothes. It doesn't really matter. What I believe, what matters to people is to serve your community. And whatever you contribute to that community online has to be a service. It cannot be self-proclamations. It cannot be vanity. Just to share, for example, this is something I do quite often, and it's very appreciated. As a person who's been around in the internet era for a long time, I'm a dinosaur, and dinosaurs have their own share of respect. I get invited to a lot of exclusive events. For example, I'm invited to the ET event tomorrow or tonight. Actually, I'm not going, but I should have been going for it. And this is a screenshot of a event that was about Eric Schmidt coming to Delhi. And I still remember, sitting in some front row. It was very interesting to listen to Eric Schmidt. I would have kept going on, but I had half my mind on my iPad, furiously typing notes as he spoke. Again, this is effort, right? I mean, you're sitting in a room, people are around you. Why would you be jabbing away? You could just simply be sitting or even hearing microphone and then doing something else. But I committed myself. I said, I have to serve my community. They are out there who are not in the event. I am in the event. We own the Rodinhoods. So the fun part was that I wrote these notes. The minute the event got over, I got out. I got into my cab, and boom, I posted this note in about 10 or 12 minutes after it had concluded. That delights people. They love it. I do this quite often. I was at the Mark Zuckerberg event a few months back. I did the same thing there. And it's a real service. It's nothing but telling your community that, you know what, you don't have to be there. I am there and I will serve you. You don't have to waste your time going to events. I will capture everything for you and give it to you as simply as a post on Facebook. So whatever you do, commit yourself to serving your community. Make yourself a servant, and work as hard as you can to make your community feel happy. Not even proud, just happy. The other thing that, I mean, this sounds like quite strange. What's Alok up to? Is he kind of drunk or whatever? But it all depends on what you write. You can write stuff that makes you happy, which is great, but it's also very important to write useful stuff. Now, this PPT that I wrote was, I think it's 2 years old, if I'm not mistaken. It's a very simple pitch to get funded. And let me tell you a very simple, kind of funny story about this. Because I've raised few rounds and I've sold a couple of companies, I know the process. I meet VCs all day long. So when I began to think of, let's create a template that entrepreneurs could use, the pitch deck, the empty pitch deck came very fast. In fact, it came so fast that in about a day I had done the 21 slides that anybody could use to pitch a business with. Just take the template and start filling it up. While I was thinking of putting it up on SlideShare and then use that on the Rodinhoods, I said it's still not purposeful. It's still not useful. It might be informative, but it is not useful. And it is not useful because how will someone who has never filled up a template before fill this up? If I say make a mission statement, or if I say why are you doing this, people would spend, say, 7 lines in describing why, and that's not what I want them to do. So I said to myself, Alok, create a real pitch on your own template, populate that pitch template with a real life example, and then put up this PPT. Now that effort took 21 days because I had to use numbers, I had to use examples, the pitch had to be really sensible. And when I finally put up that presentation, I think it was complete. It was useful. By that arrow there you can see it's been It's been viewed almost 500,000 times now if you look back. And this is a very simple PPT that I get a lot of compliments for. I keep getting a lot of mails from people saying thank you very much, from the US, from India, and it's nothing but just some knowledge that I had in my head, but it's useful. So as an online community owner or an entrepreneur thinking of online communities, whatever you curate, whatever you put up, try and be really useful to the community that you're serving. At the end of the day, it's if you're saying community, you have to be on the side. You have to be the watchman. You have to be the lift man taking people up and down. You have to be the servant. I'm sorry, I'm using these terms not out of discrimination, but just to make a point that really the heroes of the community are the members. They are not you and me. And for example, this is it's a vanity point for me. Whenever I look at the Rodinhoods today, I don't see myself at all. A, I'm not writing as often as I should, which is a problem. But two, the content that's most popular, the content that's getting the most amount of traction, the content that's getting the most amount of discussion is not my content. It's the community content. And that makes me very, very proud that I'm no longer the hero. I may have been the architect, but I'm no longer the hero that lives in the building. So whenever you want to create an engaging community that has a perpetuity to it, make sure that you start to fade not into the limelight or into the sun, into the twilight, but you fade onto the sides and make the community members heroes. So that really is important. This is controversial, and I think all of us have different views on it. I am very, very headstrong on the point that you should write what you like, not what you should. And the point is that, if you're going to be a voice, if you're going to be an opinion, if you're going to be, for me, it's entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is never someone's servant or someone's slave. He is or her, she is her own person. Then you should be absolutely independent in terms of your thinking and your expression. You can't do illegal things, you can't disparage people, but you must have the courage to write your own views. And for the last 3.5, 4 years, I have bashed up Arvind Kejriwal. Not because of any vendetta, it's just that I never believed in the man. I still don't. And when I began to write my first article in the Economic Times, which was, why Arvind Kejriwal makes me yawn, believe it or not, this was right during the peak of his popularity. I wrote why Anna Hazare is a fool, and a little controversial kind of headlines, but I felt they were fools, and I think they are fools. Now, believe it or not, this was the biggest backlash I got. Right? I got, just to give an example of how bad it can be when you start writing what you think and not what you should. I'm a advisor to AdTech, which is the global advertising conference that happens all over the world. And when I wrote stuff like this, someone anonymously sent a mail to the AdTech New York board saying that, you guys have an advisor in India who's a criminal and he's a bad guy, and, he works against the country, and this is what he writes. So the AdTech board wrote a mail to Ram, who runs the AdTech board in India, and said, dude, are you sure you've got this right guy? So, it's very vindictive. If you start writing what's on your mind, people who don't believe in it are going to be very, very angry and vindictive, and you just got to enjoy the ride. You're going to say, wow, bring it on, man. You're going to enjoy that backlash. So to me, this is my USP. I write what I believe in, and I want to be as vociferously loud about that as I can. I will not be bowed down by someone who believes it's not the right thing to do. So to me, it's a peg of building a great content, to be able to build very strong voice, and whatever you think you believe in could be a great peg for your community. But this has worked for me. And after Arvind Kejriwal kind of collapsed and went wherever, I got all the accolades and saying, oh, but that was not what I was there for. I don't wish he kind of failed, but I didn't do it for that. I did it because I didn't believe in the model. So write what you think. we're towards the end, so I think we're doing pretty okay on time, but just another 3 lessons to go. Create a reward system. Do something which rewards your community, and the reward doesn't have to be very, very expensive or very, very costly or something that kind of bogs you down. These are metaphors, these are expressions, right? So for example, this black t-shirt that you see us wearing, you can't buy it, you can't get it, you have to win it. And when you write something nice, you do something nice, Asha, the editor, kind of doles it out to people. And it's a very nice expression of saying, the Rodin Hoods community has rewarded me and I'm so proud to wear it. That's a big, with his laptop skin. So we kind of merchandise things. Someone made the laptop skin for us because he loves the Rodin Hoods. He's a Rodin Hood member. We took that skin and gave it away to people. And, this is what Asha invented. It's called the Rodin Hood Star. It's a very simple, nice looking gold medal that is given to people who write nice posts, and it's put on their blog on the Rodin Hoods after they've written it, and it's got some kind of traction. So a very simple feel good rewards business or reward loyalty idea just kind of makes people feel rewarded and feel accomplished. It's a nice lubrication to add to your online community. This is a very interesting case study. It's about being inclusive, so very often when you build an online community, you believe that the people who are meant for that community will come to the community, and or you will reach out to them because they deserve to be on that community. And that's common sense. I mean, I wouldn't expect you to think otherwise. But sometimes life has surprises. And if you consider this guy, he's an auto rickshaw driver out of Delhi, or I think out of Delhi. And a Rodin Hooder actually found him to be so interesting because this man understands the statistics of his drops and pickups. He analyzes how many girls does he pick up, how many men does he pick up, where do they stay, how often have they traveled with him. He's analytical in his mind. He's blessed with the numbers, kind of affinity for numbers. And we were so happy to receive him at the Rodin Hoods. We put him on stage. He obviously spoke in Hindi. He was very, very nervous. And he shared with us, I mean, a rickshaw auto guy, how he looked at his auto rickshaw as a business and how he was building loyalty and analytics to get more customer, affinity and how to do better business. So you never know, your online community doesn't have to be always a cohort. It can be many different people. And as long as you as the owner of that community have, are inclusive in your mind, it can just blow up. So these are great examples of saying that, be open-minded, be happy to receive, people into your community because they will only add more value to you. To me, I think this has been the greatest achievement of the Rodin Hoods. We never would have been as popular as we are unless we had taken it offline. This is again very funny for me to say personally because I'm a total digital .com guy. I've become, I always lived in an ivory tower in a bubble, and I've become even more in a bubble. I don't like meeting people outside of my work. I don't have relatives I meet. I kind of shun parties. But when it comes to the Rodin Hoods, it's so funny. The more we do outside, the better the business, the better the community grows. So the one lesson we've learned is that the more you touch and feel a online community, the better and bigger it grows online. And I'll share some screenshots of the journey of this online going offline. So when I began to blog and I began to get a lot of responses to the site, one day I decided, I said, hey, you know what, let's call some people to the office. And that's the way it was. I mean, it's like another conference room that you see me sitting in. There were like 5 people who came. We sat down, it looks like a business meeting. It wasn't even like a community meeting. And we just talked about things that were happening, some related to the Rodinhoods and some not. But that's how the offline business began of a blog site. And then, my business would take me to two places, and obviously I would travel. And before I knew it, I would tell people, hey, you know what, I'm coming to Bangalore. That's Nidhi from Bangalore. And she would say, hey, can we meet? I've never met you. I've read what you write. I like what you say. So I said, sure. And we began to meet. So, intra of city, meetings began to happen. I don't think that's a word called intra of the city. So other city meetings began to happen. And, in Delhi, when I went once, someone said, hey, Alok, it's nice to meet you, but can we do dinner together? And, being the Marwadi that I am, I said, I'll do dinner, but I won't pay for it. This is very funny. But they said, no, we don't want you to pay for it. We'll pay for it, but can we just sit and eat together? And that was a very personal, very touching feeling, because I never knew that there were people out there that, cared so much. If you're going to come and, go Dutch and spend money to eat with some guy, you obviously have some connection with him. So this is a very nice kind of indication of the fact that this community was going somewhere. And then it became personal, right? And this was a moment that I had not imagined. I mean, Gurpreet Tikku gave me this cake and it says, long live Rodinhood. I had never cut a cake that didn't say long live, not long live. It always said happy birthday Alok. I'd never ever cut a cake till 43 years old, which had anything else on it but that inscription. And when I saw this cake, I couldn't believe it. I said, what the hell is going on? I mean, who is Rodinhood and why will he live long? And I think that moment it dawned on me that it had gone beyond an online community. It had become a very, very personal kind of, a human, it had taken a human form. As we rolled out, the meets got larger. As you saw from the last photograph, there were a lot more people in the office. And then we ran out of office space. And the meetings began to look like this. This is at the National Stock Exchange, and you can see there's a larger 50-60 people meeting offline on the Rodinhoods forum. And what we do right now, whenever we meet, we're meeting next Saturday at the Mumbai Open House Rodinhoods, and it's a house full. So it was very gratifying to see how it began with 2 or 3 people in the office, and how it's become so large. And the good news is that it'll take a lot of effort for you to find me in that photograph, which is the whole intention, to just be one of the many rather than to be the many, right? So remember to just do stuff outside of your community, because it's very fulfilling. And we've grown from one member that I began to blog to over 8,500 people now. And the number may not be that high from a point of the numbers we see, but that's not our agenda. We're not here to grow to 8 lakh and to 8 million. Every person on the Rodinhoods is committed to enterprise, to being something about learning about entrepreneurship, or to being an entrepreneur, just observing entrepreneurship. There's so many women who are, raising children, and they're just out there just to understand what enterprise means. So as long as that purpose is there, we're happy. And we're not here chasing numbers, but to me, the number still seems very significant because it started with 1. This is the last lesson, and I think the real motivation and the real fun should be to build something that makes you irrelevant. I've repeated this metaphor, many times, and my wish, I've blogged about this, is that one day I will go to a Rodinhood session. I won't have place to sit because no one will have reserved a seat for me. And then I'll sit somewhere at the back, and someone will say, when did you join this community? And I'll say sometime back, and that's the end of the conversation. So, I see people, this is a beautiful snapshot of people we took at the Delhi meeting last time. And it just shows, man, I mean, there's a community out there that loves this this expression, and all of us will become irrelevant as the years go by, but the community will live forever. So I think that's really the final lesson in building an online community. And these are my contact tags and the URL. If you aren't at the Rodinhoods, look it up. It'll be fun for you to hang out and gain a thing or two. Thank you.
Great, Alok. Very, very interesting session. Really enjoyed.
Thank you.
So
Thanks.
first and foremost, I mean, now I see the relevance of the word Rodinhood. Being an entrepreneur, I can completely relate.
Right.
I can't be just a doer. I can't be just a thinker. I have to be a thinker and a doer. And there are a lot of interesting questions that are coming up. I'll just start with the genial question. And this is something that I also want to ask you. What she has written is, while building an online community, do you make yourself bigger than the brand? For example, if a co-founder is a major pull, assuming it's a funding portal with credential of a founder's matter, while building a community, do you make the brand bigger than you? And should you continue leveraging your personal brand? And I think you've shared a lot of examples on how now the Rodinhood has actually started to become more independent. But in the initial days, what is your advice? How much should a person should take it forward with the personal branding and being a brand? How much will that impact, and
sure.
To separate it out at later stage? How does that work?
So I see the question. I think probably I mean the question dashboard is very easy for me to use, so I can probably pull up the questions myself and start serving, answering them myself. Yeah, I'll just serve the the double time. So I see this question is from Janil, and there's no answer, Janil, to who is bigger, the brand or the community or the co-founder or the the person. It's anything that works, man. I mean, if your co-founder is a persona that, if tomorrow you can get Mark Zuckerberg to be a co-founder in an online community, then obviously you'll use him. But tomorrow, if you get, a website like Facebook to become the sponsor of your online community, then you'll use the platform. So to be very honest, anything which is the strongest asset you have is what you should leverage. Do not ever say that, oh, while that is the strongest, will it do something to my community? It won't. Trust me. I keep asking this question to a lot of people that, how many people remember the founder of TED? And I've asked this question to many people. One out of 100 know the answer. And that is exactly my point. When the founder started TED, he was the brand and he went all over the world or place trying to do it. But eventually the person has become insignificant. So I would say just use your biggest asset, whatever you have, and kind of leverage it. I'm just good. Okay, Janil, you're a guy. I'm sorry, man. I thought you were a girl. Let me just go back to how long has it been since it started? Rinkesh Shah asks. It's been about 4 years since the Rodinhood started. November 2010 was when we started. So it's a 4-year journey. Someone is Ning the most suited platform for a community, or are there other platforms that can be considered? Kais is asking this question. I think Ning has worked very well for us. It's been very, very smooth to handle. It takes its own sweet time to learn and to get over. It's very rigid, Kais. So it's not going to be like if you're used to WordPress, we're used to PHP kind of backend, boom, 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 you do things and it happens. This is not that kind of animal. This is almost like someone is running your own site for you and you have to do things step by step. But for donkeys like me who are like BCom graduates, this works like a dream. I mean, I don't have to learn. Let me be honest. I've spent 200 hours probably on WordPress out of interest, but I like the simplicity of Ning. So, and it's got a lot of the community features that really do well. So that's really helpful. I think G. Naik wanted to ask, can there be a bulleted point on how community grew in sense of invite, sent or word of mouth, emailing just to think? No, we didn't do anything, Naik, Mr. Naik. We didn't invite anybody. We didn't send any email. All I did was write articles, post them on my Facebook wall, and then it just began to grow. And then when I pointed people to the Rodinhoods, people began to come. So, I have an allergy to things that are all things marketing. The spam stuff really kind of makes me feel out of place. So we never did that. Thank you, Jeannie. Wow, thanks a ton. I know, man, I'm wearing a collared t-shirt, sorry. Where can I find the PPT for the pitch that Alok spoke about? I think you'll find it somewhere on, if you just search on Google for the Rodinhoods funding pitch, probably that'll be the first result. And we will put it up if you want on the home page right now so that you can find it. Asha at rodinhoods.com is the best person to help you get that.
Alok, just one thing that might help you. If you just uncheck show answered question, then you would be able to see a limited set of questions because these are the questions I've already answered on like all the logic.
Using delete. Using delete the question, is that what you're saying?
Checkbox on the top, show answered question. If you just uncheck it, then you'll be able to see the limited set of questions that are yet not answered.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My bad. I get it. There's a very nice question, which is what is in your opinion the best way to find a co-founder, especially a tech co-founder? I don't know. I think it's all luck. Trust me. Well, that's what I have had the luck of. But try and hang out at these conferences. Try and hang out at events. Try and probe people. It's a lot of hard work also. You have to go out there and meet people because as you start meeting them, you'll begin to figure out. The challenge is this, right? You will find co-founders. You will find technology experts. The question is, are they going to be a co-founder or not? That is really, really difficult. So there are lots of people that are very attractive, but are you going to marry all of them? That's the question you're going to have. So sorry, it might not have been a good example. Spreading across, again, G Naik had a question. Spreading across established media needs entry pass to the club. How do you get one? No, not at all. Trust me, read up that PPT on the ways to get PR. It's a misnomer. In every newspaper in the country today, the journalist is obliged to give his or her name. Times Group, whether it's the Mint, whether it's the Economic Times. Earlier it was not that easy. All you have to do is read articles, find an article that makes sense to your industry. So it's in the world of journalism, it's called the beat. So person in XYZ newspaper is following tech, following healthcare, following e-com, and then you write to her or him with a very, very non-pitchy sounding kind of message saying, hey, nice article, I do the same thing. Can I just make sure that you keep me in my mind, and leave it at that. Don't be spam, don't be like a nuisance. It's not that difficult at all. How do you ensure that the critical mass to know that idea works by starting small? Rinkish, it's a good question. I don't know what is the intent of what you are trying to do, which is difficult to know like this, but you get a sense, right? I mean, I think the biggest sense is when you start feeling happy, when you feel that moment of satisfaction saying, I'm building a community that has a purpose, that you want to go back and log into tomorrow and contribute to. To me, that's the metric, but your metric could be conversion, your metric could be something else. But no matter what, you have to start small. I mean, that I can assure you. It will not work even if you start large. Can you explain a little more about lesson 6 to build something outside? The point I was making was that every organism today is symbiotic. It's kind of got this, it breathes in and it breathes out. So if you're building a community which has to do with a closed, a mindset of people who are passionate about something, it can't just be built that way. You have to go out and get inspiration. So the Rodinhood open houses, for example, that we do, a lot of the guys who come there are not Robinhood members. This Saturday we're going to get a guy who's selling, who's become the leader in the fish business. We're getting someone who's becoming a business in the payment business. But that influence that comes from outside is what grows your community inside. So it's a very symbiotic relationship, and I hope you've understood that now. But that don't grow in a silo. I mean, as the famous saying goes, a man is not an island, right? So don't behave like an island. Be earth. Just be round and keep meeting as many people as you can. What to post in a community that who really engage the people and start a discussion? Any suggestions? Controversy, man. I think anything that is not well like e-com has been a big kind of peg for me. I think all my calls are turning out to be false because I was not that optimistic in terms of how it's turning out, but the verdict is still out there. Always write about something you either know a lot about or have a very strong view about, not just unfounded view, but a founded view, or you have a kind of vision about, right? I mean, without, kind of spoiling people's moods, I always felt that QNet and the Sahara group were fraud. I always felt that because it didn't make any sense. So when I would write about that, I would get a lot of backlash saying, how dare you call QNet fraud, and we make so much money. But who cares? I mean, as long as you're not disparaging the name, that's what it is. So I think anything that is contrarian, but positively contrarian, always will get a discussion going. I mean, and if you run out of ideas, look at Arnab Goswami, right? I think he's got the right business plan there. I think we're done with the, Kanchan, man. I can't ever get your name right. How do you organize your time? Really, we could use a little tips with this. And by the way, the founder is Chris Anderson, and blah, 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 blah. I know that. Kanchan, man, the time is all about figuring out how you can condense things in capsules and making them happen, right? So I think a lot of us just waste a lot of time. Meditate to begin with. Trust me, please meditate, because meditate allows you to bring a lot of gravity into your action. What you do becomes very meaningful. So that is my sole tip. Just meditate so that you can become very, very effective. I mean, it takes up your effectiveness 10x. The thinking you're doing and your messaging. It just, boom, it's like a laser beam.
Alok,
what kind of difficulties did you have? Sorry.
Yeah, sure. While you're responding to this question, guys, I'm just pulling out a poll. You can just take it as a quick commercial break. In case you're interested in the online course in digital marketing space, just mention yes over here. I'll just close down a poll in a minute. Alok, you can continue with the Q&A. You can continue right
now. Yeah, I think, one second. I'm with Lara right now. What kind of difficulties did you have while creating an online community? I think, Lara, the difficulties were just keeping the interest alive, just making sure that, content was meaningful every day. Asha still struggles with that every day, she keeps pinging me, Alok, can you help me with this? Can you post this? Can you promote this? So with the kind of noise we have in the world today and with the kind of distractions we have, it's very difficult to get focus back to where you started. And very often, that's why I started the initial part of the presentation by saying, if you don't really feel very strongly about something, you yourself will be the cause of destruction, because you will lose interest in your own creation. So as long as you're highly motivated to do what you do, and trust me, you won't have so many problems in creating engagement. It'll happen. My person is asking, my company had a self-hosted community where managing the infrastructure can be quite costly. Is it possible to replicate a similar community on LinkedIn? And a person, I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know LinkedIn. You can't do messaging. You can't do this kind of, Ning is very cheap. I would really suggest you look at ning.com and figuring it out. I mean, it costs less than $200-300 in the month to do this. So I don't think anything can be that cheap, right? The real expenses about time and about people and travel and merchandise, but the core infrastructure doesn't cost anything. So I would not advise you to think of LinkedIn. I haven't seen that kind of infrastructure there. What is the core objective of your building the community considering your entrepreneurial skills are aligned to your business plan? The core objective of building the community was to give back, and it has nothing to do with my business plan. I want to earn some brownie points when I go up in heaven, my friend, and that's the objective. Who can be a part of my community? Anybody. When you see an awesome post on another blog, should you hash the message or cool to copy paste and give the right credits? Hash the message. What do you mean? I mean, rob the message? No way, man. You got to give that place, if you can find inspiration from it and write something else, that's great. Otherwise, just link to it and use that person's content and give him or her the credit, right? Why would you hash something? Do you work on one idea, take it to a next level? I do. It depends on what the idea is. It has to be really, really meaningful for me. We have a small incubator in Tuwin, but it's very, very restrictive to what we really like to do. How to get in touch with investor? All investors have websites. There are 40-50 VCs out there. Trust me, they read their emails. Go onto their websites and write them a mail describing what you do. If you do something that interests them, they will get back to you. I can guarantee you that. During a startup period, what helped you growing this community? Is it just the social media or something else? I think it's, Samir is asking this. Samir, it's intent, man. I mean, things don't happen because you want them to happen. There is a universe that makes it happen, in my humble opinion. And this happened because the purpose was to help people. So, you begin to get a lot of love from the universe when you do these kind of things. At least that's what worked for me. Thank you, Gur. You kicked it off, man. You made it personal. Many companies start communities primarily to generate leads for their company. What are your thoughts on that? Person wants to ask again. Those are false communities. Those are more lead gen landing pages. I know what you mean, but I mean, I don't think they come into the consideration here for me. I mean, that's dhanda, and why would we talk about, that's not the love of a community, that's the love of your business. When you write articles in the outside media and those are cross-posted to Rodinhoods, does Google view them as duplicate content? No, I don't think so. I think the original source remains the online blog or wherever it's posted, and then I post it here. I've had this concern earlier, but it's not really considered to be duplicate content because it's posted independently, and I think SEO doesn't pick that up as a negative. Puneet wants to know, when are we going to have an open house in Goa? Sure, man, anytime. Rajat, I know Rajat wants to know when will we be in Delhi, hopefully soon. I think we're pretty much done. Last question, what is the secret of a successful online community? There's so many big ones existing, Reddit, etc. How do you make a mark in the competitive world? Chandresh has asked this question. I don't know the answer. I think it's all about, as I said many times before, the intent and your purpose and how committed you are. And what you mean by success also is very relative. For me, as long as I can touch one life and make it better, I'm successful. And then anything above that is more success. So you have to plan your own metric of success. But I think there's enough space for everybody in the world. Who cares about what other people are doing?
Guys, I think we've taken all the questions. In case there is any question, I'm just putting down all the hands. That is very, very urgent and you really want an answer right now. Just press the hand raise button and I'll unmute you. Since we've already exceeded with 5 minutes, we can take up a couple of questions. Otherwise, I mean, we've recorded this session. We'll send you the recording also, and we'll do a blog post also. And in any case, you can join the community and get your question answered.
Sure.
But if there is something that's really, really urgent and you really want an answer right now, just press the hand raise button. I'll unmute you. Great. Looks like, Alok, you have answered all the questions.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for participating, and thank you, guys, for hosting. This was fun. It's my first one for so long. So it was kind of fun to keep looking at yourself and talking. Thank you.
Right. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Alok. Thanks everybody for your participation. Thank you. The session is closed.